Happy gaming, guys! It's SpookSquirrel and WraithMouse here to make you feel good about games you like.
So today we're going to look at part 2 of our 3-part episode of Anthem. We're going to take a close look at the revealed game art and the gameplay reveal video. If you're new to Anthem, part 1 is a quick introduction and you'll find a link on screen and below in the notes. If you're interested in seeing more videos on Anthem or other games and related geekery, make sure to hit subscribe and tap the like button to show us you care.
Alright, so let's dive right in.
So we open up in a place called Fort Tarsus, which is the social space for Anthem. We're in a market bazaar with a real Star Wars frontier feel to it, especially in the colour palette and raw tech feel. And this is not surprising given that in a recent interview with CBC, Aaron Flynn, general manager of BioWare, said that the game is more science fantasy and more like Star Wars and the Marvel Universe than the hard science of Mass Effect. This is clearly a civilian outpost as much as a military post, and we see children running freely through the area, giving us a sense that this is not some restricted zone or high security area, but a safe place. Also note the lack of personal weapons. No sidearms or even knives appear on any of the citizens.
There are only humans visible, so there doesn't appear to be any alternate species for PCs at this stage. Also, there doesn't appear to be any cybernetic enhancement visible.
When we get our first glimpse of the giant land strider, very reminiscent of a Star Wars AT-AT, we get to notice a couple of things. Firstly, that Fort Tarsus is covered in some sort of structured dome, and we see for the first time an icon that is threaded throughout the game. 2 triangles with an inverted triangle between them. After watching all the videos, I'm pretty convinced that this is the symbol for freelancers. And there appears to be a sigil on the cowl of the land strider, a fin-like shape with what could be an animal on it. This could be a faction or unit symbol, and the fact that there is such a large vehicle inside Tarsus not only gives us an indication of the fort's size, but also of the ability for these walkers to enter and leave the fort. So Praxley has hired some non-freelancers to do a job for him at the right price. So we immediately know there's an economy as well as some sort of labour going on outside Fort Tarsus. This immediately brings to mind salvage teams, hunting parties, mining prospectors, and mercenaries bent on a score. The fact that Praxley is more worried about having sent out non-freelancers to do the task makes me think it's illegal to hire non-freelancers to do whatever he's getting them to do.
And so starts the quest Hell or High Water, with a subtext saying, rescue Praxley's workers. So we know they're workers and not mercenaries or something similar. And we're shown the orange objective symbol for the first time.
The big figure in the centre appears to be a Tarsus security officer or soldier, and I'm pretty sure the wing-like logo on the shoulder plate is the symbol for Tarsus or the organisation that runs Tarsus. I'm also pretty sure this is an exosuit. Maybe not a javelin, but definitely an exosuit. As we move into the javelin hangar area, we see the Tarsus symbol up on the flags in the background and notice something else as well.
There's a cathedral-like archway in the background that is clearly not part of the more industrial structure of the Javelin workshop.
Now we get our first look at the javelins, and we see 3 chassis types that are viewed in the video. In the middle is an orange-coloured Colossus chassis, and we're shown an in-game HUD display identifying the Javelin as our ally of the week. Level 43, call sign, Shadowjack. And then a little symbol on the right, what appears to be a blue star or ice crystal, beneath which is a 7%. I think this is a choice of elemental energy used by the chassis, and the percentage of upgrade the chassis has in this element. Meaning that perhaps you can upgrade multiple elements on the same chassis, unlocking different chassis abilities with the Javelins related to the element type. There's been a lot of speculation as to what the ally of the week is. Our thought is that it is an NPC that can take control of one of your Javelin suits to accompany you on missions when your friends aren't online. These could act in similar ways to, say, the crew of the starships in Mass Effect. not only giving frontline support in missions, but also providing storylines of their own.
To the left is the light javelin. We're not told the name of it in the video, so we're going to call it the Djinn. And we'll see more of it later on. And before we get into the third chassis, I want to point out two other details. First, there is an empty javelin bay at the back. So should there be a fourth javelin? We think so, and we'll cover that a little later on.
And take a look in the back there. It looks like a foundry. Now this is interesting because if you check out the Anthem website, which we'll leave a link to in the notes below, there's a part that reads, "Customize them with gear you earn and craft." So we get to craft gear using salvage we find out in the real world. That's pretty cool. And what better place to do it than in a foundry workshop, right? So then we get to a mechanic working on the third chassis, the Ranger, which the PC in the video is going to pilot.
The mechanic working on the javelin has three triangle symbols we saw earlier, which we're calling the freelancer symbol. And in the background there appear to be apartments or some sort of sandstone buildings. Just before the PC jumps into her javelin, we notice a number of things. First, the voice input monitor for her teammate Paul pops up on the left, indicating communication. The freelancer symbol then appears inside her javelin suit, and the PC mentions she's going to use the ranger suit as she wants to try out some new upgrades.
Reaching the top of the elevator, we can see the 3-tube mini missile pod on the Ranger's chassis' left shoulder. And I love the suspension eye mounts on the epaulets. It gives a real sense that these suits are tools and machines that require maintenance. Great facial animation here, and I'm thinking that if there is any character customization, it might only be for our characters' faces, as the rest of the game is either in first person or third person when we're wearing our javelin suits.
Now there is a V symbol on the Ranger suit. This is an identifier for rank or loadout, or even the symbol for the chassis type. Single weapon mount on the left hip, and once again we see the three triangles on the Ranger's chest.
Out on the balcony, we see more Tarsus flags. Tarsus security officers in exosuits with what appear to be heavy machine guns. Defense turrets with chain guns, and then we get our first look at the world outside the fort. There's a pile of empty shell casings on the ground at the base of the defense turret, so we're given the impression that they are used on a day-to-day basis, and given the distances involved, are either extremely long range or used mainly for anti-air defense. The landscape looks broken, ruptured, and thrown up at odd angles, almost like the tectonic plates have been lashed like a tablecloth. But we also see that the world is habitable, with blue cloud-filled skies and rich vegetation. The skies are full of giant white winged creatures, so perhaps that's what the defense turrets are keeping away. And we see our first location icons. To the left is the orange icon indicating our objective location, and ahead to the right is an icon looking like a ruin under a mountain. As the camera pans around, we see an arch-like structure dropping down, covered in cracks and vegetation, while off in the distance, a strange mesostructure rises above the horizon, and we see a skull icon, perhaps indicating a prohibited area or a deadly mission location. First, let's talk about the articulated ribbon structure. We see these things a lot, and later on they're so common, it's clear that they're woven through the whole planet. Now in the CBC interview, Aaron Flynn says that we're on an alien planet far away, working to save humanity. Keep that in mind going forward. And we'll talk more about these ribbons later on.
Just before we move on, I would like to point out more of that carved or moulded masonry, giving us a real sense of that Fort Tarsus is living in the bones of a much older settlement.
When the PC's companion Paul drops in, we see his brief stats, level 32, and the 5% next to a flame icon. When his Colossus lands, there is a ring of fire, and clearly fire brimming out of the Colossus's arm. So let's quickly talk about the character details. Okay, so there's a character leveling system, and being a BioWare game, we can assume it will be something similar to the Mass Effect skill list, rather than a Destiny-style skill tree. But we might also see something new, either a streamlined system, something like the templates in Mass Effect, or maybe a more detailed system, like we get in the Fallout series of games. And then there's this plus 5%, with what I'm assuming is a flame icon. So many in the community are suggesting this is an elemental bonus given to the team as a whole, but I'm thinking it relates to the elemental affinity of the javelin itself, and maybe is a trait that can be increased as we level up, maybe giving us the option to level up our javelins as well, in a similar style to upgrading a Titan in Titanfall.
We also see another symbol, this time what appears to be a winged blade or missile on the Colossus's thigh guard. I'm thinking this is the symbol for the Colossus.
Yeah, I got it on the weekend. You lead the way, I'll follow.
Here we see another location icon, in this case a flag. So is it a fort that we can take and repair, expanding human territory? Isn't it an arena or a training ground? I think seeing it here, it's too far away from Fort Tarsus to suggest it is part of the wall. But my bet would be on an area of territory to be claimed where we can plant the flag for Tarsus or whoever we work for, possibly creating a forward operating base.
We're taken on a flight through a set of rings that form a tunnel leading out to a lower plateau into a jungle setting teeming with wildlife. As we fly along, we cannot help but be reminded of the movie Avatar and the planet Pandora. The colour schemes, environment and animals all feel very similar.
Coming around to a break in the landscape, we are confronted with a jumbled vista of ruins. On the left we have an almost medieval castle, while in the distance beyond are those giant tube-like ribbons forming rings and arches. So let's talk about those for a moment, as they are so clearly present in this image. Because of the way they wormed through the world and other little clues, I wouldn't be surprised if this was some sort of alien planet forming technology. Not terraforming as such, but more structural, so the entire planet could be built on a web of these things.
In some of the game art, we see that they appear to be hollow, and so maybe they can be used to travel to different parts of the world. They also seem to play a part in what are called shaper storms, but we'll get to that later.
There are also signs of recent work on the ruins, in the form of scaffolding and walkways set apart from the ruins. So this could be an outpost, a salvage area, or even a place on which the players could actually build further. And then we get a closer look at two of the planet's creatures, clearly hostile.
This is also the first time we see the combat HUD, when the PC pulls her gun and we see a set of special attack options. In this case, a missile swarm, some sort of charged super, and what I guess is a slam or force strike. There also appear to be ammunition or charge values indicating that these attacks have ammunition limits. On the right, we see a shield icon, giving an indication of the remaining armor of the javelin. The targeting reticule for the weapon shows current ammo and presumably ammo reserves. There's no radar shown or indication of incoming hostiles, even when the two players start taking fire to the front.
Here the PC discovers a new area, Deadlight Caverns, gaining a discovery bonus to XP. We see the binocular icon, which I take to indicate a location open for exploration. There's no indication of oxygen limit, so maybe we can swim as long as we want, giving us enough time to explore underwater locations.
Popping out of the water, there are a number of what we presume are scars, and we can see that the PC's weapon appears to be some sort of shotgun. Note the damage taken to the shield and the change in ammo. We see the Colossus perform some sort of landfall concussion strike and follow it up with a similar fist strike, blasting the scar around him.
We then see a new location ahead, the same icon indicating a ruin that we saw from the Fort Tarsus balcony. This long-fall ruin is clearly a huge structure with a tunnel-like entrance. The outer construction is covered in vegetation and the overall feels like one of abandonment.
We see Paul in his Colossus open a crate or treasure cache, and we're wondering if this is a procedural drop or whether it was part of the Scar encounter the two just had. The cache gives them 25 Brinium shards. We're yet to see if this is a standard material for currency or for use in upgrades, but it's clear that each get the reward, and the website states that rewards are shared across a group.
Next, an objective message pops up indicating a white objective to eliminate scars.
Your javelin exosuit with gear that brings devastating power to combat.
We see a Landstrider taken down by a flight of missiles, and then, just before, we see a number of Scar scavengers and a Scar heavy armor suit, which could be a salvaged Colossus by the look of it. In the background there appears to be some sort of building, with a very industrial style design. This extends to the surrounding medieval architecture ruins, with bright yellow scaffolding over parts of the ruin. We're making the assumption that this is a Scar structure, so we know that the Scar aren't just flying in to scavenge, but they're setting up shop, much in the way the humans appear to be, each vying for the planet's resources.
Use that mortar.
Also, you'll notice that the PC's combat reticle has changed, and now appears to be some sort of rifle or carbine. So it seems while we only see one weapon equipped, we obviously have access to a wider loadout of small arms. Also notice that the PC's shield is still damaged. When the PC makes use of her missile swarm attack, it appears that she has the option of limited or total commitment with regard to the number of missiles used, and the amount is then deducted from the ammunition total.
So here we see an XP award for objective completion, and we get the first loot drop. Opening up the loot drop reveals Jara's Wrath, a legendary bolt rifle with a level value and the typical stats.
Oh, yes! Jara's Wrath.
Oh, nice.
Large-scale world events like Shaper Storms are dynamic and pull you off the beaten path with the promise of new
Then we
stories
are
to
introduced to the Shaper Storms, which appear to be random instances offering a white objective.
Okay. Actually, let's get
We see two more team members join in. First, Kim's Javelin drops in, and it appears to be a Ranger chassis with a modified loadout.
We get to see the Jin chassis in action for the first time. The Jin appears to be a light chassis, much quicker and more focused on the use of elemental power aspect of the Javelin, rather than an auxiliary heavy weapon like the other two have.
We see their basic stats when they join in, so level, name, and what we still presume is their elemental ability percentage for their Javelin. So it seems like we have electrical or volt, fire, and ice shown here. The main character's elemental symbol appears as a crystal, like a diamond, but no idea what this could mean.
Before we reach the Shaper Storm, the characters pass through what looks like a Landstrider graveyard, with abandoned Landstriders covered in vines. So we're told the Shaper Storms open new stories and new areas to explore. So I'm thinking these are instances similar to the subway mission in The Division, where the mission is procedurally generated.
This is a good time to look at Kim's Javelin, and the possibility that it is in fact a fourth Javelin type. While there are clear similarities with Michelle's Ranger's suit, there are also a number of differences, one of which is a forearm mount. Is this some sort of built-in melee weapon, giving us a melee specialist chassis? There is also the option that it is some sort of support Javelin, an engineer, a sniper, or even healer type able to repair Javelins in the field. The image of Kim's Javelin's helmet when the team gathers to enter the Shaper Storm backs up the idea that it is possibly a different type of Javelin. And we get a better view from the Anthem website flash screen.
In part 3, we'll look at the rumours that Anthem is EA's Destiny killer, and whether this is accurate or just chatter.
And please be sure to click on the like button and subscribe to get more from WraithMouse and myself.
Feel free to leave a comment, and if you can't think of anything to say, then just leave the comment Shaper to show your support.
We'll leave the links to the CBC interview in the notes below. Till then, this is SpookSquirrel
And WraithMouse,
wishing you
happy gaming!